Yeah, I'll react to that, sure.
Hey!
So, the Middle East's version
Treaty
of
Organization.
NATO.
MITO, I've never heard of this. History Matters, great channel for, um, I can't talk, okay? It's after lunch. I get tired. History Matters is just the perfect channel for me for getting a quick inside look into certain subjects I don't know about. I get a lot of, I do a react to, I can't talk. I do react to a lot of more in-depth history videos that talk about more specifics, but my brain just doesn't absorb that stuff. It gets overwhelmed, and so I like to see the big picture stuff first. I'm not saying just for this video, but any subject. So my mind can at least get the basics down, and then I can go into more and more detailed videos about subjects. So that's really why I love this channel. They've been growing fast too. So let's learn. Why did the Middle East version of NATO fail? Let's find out. Original link to the video, top of the description. Below that, link to the Discord. Would love to have you. Makes it easier for me to interact with you, see your recommendations.
No longer exists. MITO, the Middle East's version of NATO, no longer exists. Founded by Turkey and Iraq, it existed for over 24 years before it dissolved in the late 1970s. This alliance was similar to NATO in that its primary purpose was to
How long?
no longer exists. Founded by Turkey and Iraq, it existed for over 24 years before it dissolved in the late 1970s. This alliance was similar to NATO in that its primary purpose was to contain Soviet and communist expansion in the region. However, given that the alliance's primary objective hadn't been achieved by the late 1970s, why did MITO collapse?
Guys, I'm so confused.
The alliance's primary purpose was
with Syria. I don't see them as an ally with these guys. I don't really see them as an ally of these guys. They seem to be the kind of, I don't know if pariah state is the right term. It's not like it's North Korea. I need to learn more about Syria, Syrian history, for sure.
To contain Soviet achieved by the late 1990s expansion in the region. However, given that the alliance's primary objective hadn't been achieved by the late 1970s, why did MITO collapse? So, in early 1955, Turkey and the Kingdom of Iraq signed a defense agreement to increase cooperation in case of unwanted foreign intervention. This was aimed at the USSR, which was funding Republican groups in Iraq and strongly disliked Turkey's control over the Bosporus. This agreement was known unofficially as the Baghdad Pact, given that that's where its headquarters were. And a few months later, a new member joined, the United Kingdom. Now obviously, the UK joining a Middle Eastern alliance seems a bit odd, but the alliance was never limited to just nations in the region. MITO was always...
Question, guys?
Later, a new member joined officially as the Baghdad Pact, given that that's where its headquarters...
For the Bosphorus, so that's the straight through Istanbul, right? Or that's the Dardanelles, right? Into the Aegean. Was the Crimean War sort of around Russia wanting to control this area, or no?
Quarters were. And a few months later, a new member joined, the United Kingdom. Now obviously, the UK joining a Middle Eastern alliance seems a bit odd, but the alliance was never limited to just nations in the region. MITO was always open to any country which had an interest in resisting the expansion of communism in the region. Britain still held territories there and didn't want decolonisation to mean the rise of communism. This also meant that membership was open to the United States, which declined. The US knew that if it joined as a full member, the alliance would be painted as little more than an extension of American power, and so it opted to simply be an observer to the treaty.
The Baghdad Pact. Those party to this treaty, hereafter referred to as the Lads, do promise to fight together against any unwanted communist or socialist intervention in their respective countries. None of the Lads will try to be cool with the Soviet or the Chinese, the Soviets or the Chinese, no matter what they offer, and will have each other's backs if they try spying or whatever. The Lads agree to stay party to this treaty forever, with sole exceptions being overthrown by a coup, which kills your monarch, or simply just not liking the vibe anymore. We'll try to practice wars and stuff with each other too, maybe, if we can all find the time. Turkey's a busy guy. Non-Middle Eastern countries can join too, but they should give us tanks and stuff. Perfect.
That said, Britain's involvement did mean that many neighbouring nations wanted nothing to do with the alliance. The most notable of these was Egypt.
Love ADD.
Nations wanted nothing.
I don't love ADD, but the Saudi Arabian flag is one of my favorite flags on the planet. I think it's beautiful. Just the Saudi Arabian flag, North Macedonian flag, Spanish flag, Kenyan flag I love. Mostly because of the spear and shield. American flag, overrated.
Nothing to do with the alliance. The most notable of these was Egypt, which in 1956 was invaded by Britain and so naturally opposed the alliance entirely. And this invasion meant that very few neighbouring states saw MITO favourably. Many were concerned that Israel would be allowed to join or that they'd be forced to house Turkish or British troops. And given that many Middle Eastern nations had spent a long time trying to get rid of the British or the Turkish, it just sounded like a new form of imperialism. Shortly after Britain joined MITO, Pakistan and Iran did too. The plan then was to expand until most of the Arab League had joined, but this never happened. So why? Well, the first problem was that integration was never that deep. Besides Britain and Turkey sidelining some troops in case of conflict with the USSR in the region, there wasn't a unified structure or much military cooperation. The first problem was that integration was never that deep. Besides Britain and Turkey sidelining some troops in case of conflict with the USSR in the region, there wasn't a unified structure or much military cooperation. The second problem was that a mere 3 years after joining, Iraq had a coup. Its monarchy was overthrown and the new government withdrew from the treaty. Thus Ankara became the headquarters of the alliance, which was renamed to CENTO. Iraq soon worked with the USSR, Egypt and Syria to pressure other nations not to join the treaty, which worked. Furthermore, when Pakistan and India started shooting at each other in 1965, Pakistan invoked the alliance to help.
How did, by the time of Saddam Hussein, how did the Iraqi army become so massive? I know, I think it had some crazy, like, many millions of troops. I know they fought Iran in 1980. I forget, but I just want to know how Iraq was able to get such a massive military around the time of Saddam.
A request which was refused, which meant that Pakistan's place in the alliance was largely irrelevant. Hence to help. Or when Pakistan and India started shooting at each other in 1965, Pakistan invoked the alliance to help. A request which was refused, which meant that Pakistan's place in the alliance was largely irrelevant. After this, the alliance was unofficially dead, but it wasn't until the 1970s that it truly fell apart. After Turkey invaded Cyprus in 1974, Britain said it would no longer provide troops or weapons to the rest of the alliance. And 5 years later, after the Shah was overthrown, the new Iranian government withdrew, and Pakistan did the same the day after to keep relations with Tehran's new government positive. And shortly after that, Britain and Turkey opted to dissolve the alliance, thereby by ending the Middle East's version of NATO. I hope you enjoyed this episode with a special thanks to my
I did enjoy it, thank you. Bless me, excuse me, the cough. But it seems like it was a treaty organization, similar to NATO, obviously, to ward off, in a sense, Russian intervention and you know, communist takeover or communist influence and whatnot. But it was done with a bunch of nations that were so incredibly unstable in themselves, proved to be so with all of the, you know, changes in power in Iran and Iraq. And it just seemed to have been built with shaky members, you know, like with a bunch of members that you are not solidly established and some more than others, you know, Turkey, I guess more, but obviously really prone to changes in leadership and through coups and whatnot, revolutions, and which meant it was sort of doomed from the start, I guess. But really interesting. I did not know the role that the UK had played in it. Yeah, really cool. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you learned something or can teach me something in the comments, and I will see you next time. Bye, guys.